Howdy everyone, and today I'm testing out quite a new camera lens from Sigma that has quickly picked up a fantastic reputation, the 135mm f1.8 DG HSM A for art. It's designed for digital SLR cameras, full frame or APS-C, but you can also mount it onto a mirrorless camera if you use the appropriate adapter for your system. It's available on Canon and Nikon camera mounts as well as Sigma's own camera mount, and it costs a whopping £1,200 or $1,400 US. That's a lot more than Canon's admittedly aging 135mm L lens, and about 3 times as much as Samyang's superb manual focus 135mm lens. Sigma are clearly reaching for the stars here. Let's see what their engineers can do when budgets don't get in the way. Now, portrait photographers tend to choose lenses in the 85 to 135mm focal range. That's the range where you have enough distance from your subject to avoid distorting their features, but not so far away that you're having to shout at them. A slightly longer 135mm focal length is popular because your backgrounds can be more compressed, playing less of a role in your final image than they do with, say, an 85mm lens. 135mm is a classic focal length for portrait, subject, and other short telephoto photography. And with an aperture as fantastically wide as this Sigma lens at f1.8, even at a distance you can get lovely background separation. In fact, this lens works nicely when given a bit of distance, if that's what you want in your picture. As with all of Sigma's newer art lenses, the build quality of this thing is superb. Solid, metallic and sleek. It weighs 1.2 kilograms, over 2.5 pounds, and just look at the size of it. This is a lens that really means business. The rear of the lens is weather sealed, and the filter thread around that beautiful and cavernous front element is 82mm wide. The focus ring is very large and nicely rubberized, and it turns extremely smoothly, and just about precisely enough. You can turn it at any time. The autofocus motor is decently fast and nice and quiet. I found the accuracy of the autofocus system to be just okay in my tests. It would miss about 7 or 8% of the time when shooting through the viewfinder, although when focusing in live view mode on my camera there were no problems at all. The lens does not have image stabilization, but it does come with one of Sigma's nice lens pouches and a deep, well-made lens hood. Overall, it's a very well crafted and attention-grabbing piece of equipment, and due to its size, it'll be most at home on a large camera. Anyway, image quality. I'll start with it on a full-frame camera, my 20MP Canon 6D. I'll be getting a higher resolution full-frame camera this Christmas time. Straight from f1.8 in the middle of the picture, image quality is perfect. Contrast and resolution are fantastically good, colours are slightly warm. And the corner image quality is also perfect, with not a hint of chromatic aberration to be seen. Stop down to f2.8 for slightly brighter corners. The lens stays this sharp throughout the zoom range, and only at f11 does it even begin to get softer due to diffraction. So, this lens is easily sharp enough to completely outresolve the 20MP sensor on my aging Canon 6D. Let's push it a bit further and see how the lens can do on a more demanding APS-C camera. In this case, I've mounted it onto my little Canon EOS M3 using an adapter. Impressively, image quality, even at f1.8, remains perfect. From the middle of the image and into the corners, contrast is high and resolution is bitingly sharp, and there's not a hint of chromatic aberration. There's no need to stop down the aperture for better performance, it is literally perfect straight from f1.8. It will remain this sharp until you stop all the way down to, again, f11 or so, where a touch of softness begins to creep in due to diffraction. Well, This lens's performance on the more demanding APS-C sensor helps to reveal its true resolving power, which is astonishing. Earlier this year, I did a lot of umming and ahhing about what the sharpest lens I've ever tested might be, but now there is a new winner. The Sigma 135mm f1.8 is the sharpest camera lens I have ever tested. Okay, let's see about distortion and vignetting on a full-frame camera. They're not a problem when the lens is used on an APS-C sensor, but actually, they're not a problem on full-frame either. There's the tiniest hint of pincushion distortion visible, which some portrait photographers appreciate. Actually, it makes your subject look a little thinner. At f1.8, there is some gentle but noticeable vignetting. Stop down to f2.8 though, and it's all but gone. So another great performance here. How about close-up image quality? The lens can focus as closely as about 85 centimeters, which is quite good for a 135mm lens. At f1.8, the close-up image quality is very sharp, although I can see just a touch of purple fringing there. Obviously that makes this lens a complete failure now. Well, stop down to f2.8 and it redeems itself with perfect image quality again. How about work against bright light? Wide aperture telephoto lenses do not like bright lights, which is why you should use the included lens hood, but actually the Sigma does a comparatively good job here, showing only gentle flaring when a bright light is right there in the image frame. And finally, bokeh. The Sigma lens's maximum aperture of f1.8 gives it just a slight edge over competing 135mm lenses, and your background can be thrown deeply out of focus. The good news is that even quite busy backgrounds, like foliage, are rendered very smoothly here. After extensive testing, I never came across any problems with bokeh. So, overall, the Sigma 135mm f1.8 Art is probably the best performing classic portrait lens I've ever tested, and that's considering some really tough and less expensive competition. It's certainly a lot sharper than Canon's own 135mm L lens, which is admittedly getting on a bit now. It's worth remembering that Samyang's 135mm lens is almost as good though, and costs literally a third of the price, although it is manual focus only. But this newer Sigma lens does have that slight aperture advantage, and while its cost is very high, I would say it's justified, as this is the best lens of its kind on the market today. It comes highly recommended.